I'll give you the Ferrari if you can get it to run. Jonathan Blackwell's mocking laughter echoed through the luxury dealership courtyard as he pointed toward the mangled red Ferrari dumped in the corner like a corpse of wealth. Walter Johnson, 72, had only stopped by to pick up his granddaughter when his rusty old pickup broke down right in front of Blackwell Luxury Motors. The real estate mogul, always hungry for an audience, couldn't resist turning the moment into a public circus. "Look, everyone," he called out, phone already recording. "This gentleman here seems confident about engines. Maybe he can work some magic?" The crowd snickered. The Ferrari, a 2019 model, was a total loss. Warped frame, melted wiring, dead engine. It had been kept there as a twisted trophy after Blackwell sued the young racer who wrecked it. 5 professional mechanics had declared it unfixable. Walter stepped out quietly, his calm eyes studying the wreck. His hands were weathered, his clothes plain, but his touch was deliberate. A man reading something only he understood. "Sir?" he asked evenly. "May I take a closer look?" "By all means." Blackwell smirked. "Just don't cut yourself. Wouldn't want another lawsuit on my hands." As Walter approached, the noise of laughter faded into the background. His fingers traced the dented hood, the lines of damage, the pattern of heat marks. Something flickered in his eyes. Memory. Recognition. The crowd, however, saw only an old man clinging to pride. Comments flew like arrows. "My dad's looking for help at his shop. Maybe you can fix bicycles instead." One salesman jeered. Walter didn't react. His silence unsettled a few people. It wasn't weakness. It was control. Minutes turned into an hour. The laughter turned restless. Walter was removing panels, inspecting circuits, wires, parts. His movements weren't guesses. They were exact, practiced, confident. The kind that come from someone who's been inside machines far beyond anyone's understanding. Blackwell, still recording for his social media, tried to keep the mockery alive. "He's been at it for 40 minutes. Impressive endurance. Shame about the results." Walter finally looked up. "Mr. Blackwell," he said quietly, "have you ever built anything with your own hands?" The question landed like a slap. "I built an empire," Blackwell replied sharply. Walter shook his head. "That's not building. That's buying." A ripple of silence passed through the crowd. For the first time, Blackwell's grin faltered. When Rebecca returned from lunch, she froze at the sight. Her grandfather surrounded by a crowd, Blackwell mocking him live online. She knew exactly what kind of man Blackwell was. Cruel, arrogant, and blind to real worth. But she said nothing, trusting Walter's calm. "Do you know what's wrong with it?" Blackwell finally asked with forced laughter. "Yes," Walter said, voice steady. "This car wasn't destroyed by accident. It was sabotaged." The words struck like thunder. Even the crowd leaned closer. Walter pointed to a wire. "Cut, then burn to imitate overheating. And this," he showed a twisted joint, "forced manually to break under pressure." Gasps spread. The truth was visible, undeniable. "Ridiculous," Blackwell snapped, though his voice wavered. "You can't prove anything." Walter smiled faintly, removing a metal plate. "Serial F209WJ447. Those initials, WJ, stand for Walter Johnson. I designed this engine myself, in Maranello, Italy." The courtyard went silent. Even the phone stopped recording for a moment. Blackwell's face drained of color. "I spent 45 years building Ferrari engines." Walter continued calmly. "This one, specifically, was made to be indestructible. The only way it could have failed was if someone wanted it to Rebecca's breath caught. She had known her grandfather worked for Ferrari, but not that he'd designed this exact engine." Walter looked straight at Blackwell. "Tell me, Mr. Blackwell, how much did your insurance company pay for this total loss?" Blackwell's throat tightened. He stammered, You have no right." Walter held up his phone. Fortunately, I already sent photos and a report to Ferrari headquarters. Right then, his phone buzzed. Lorenzo Benedetti, he said softly, putting the call on speaker. Walter, Dio mio, came the Italian voice. That's your prototype. This was no accident. It was fraud. We'll handle this immediately. Blackwell lunged forward, trying to end the call, but Walter stepped aside. There's more, Walter added. Your beloved experts who said this car couldn't be repaired? They lied. He connected two cables, tightened a bolt, and pressed a button. With a deep growl that rose to a powerful roar, the Ferrari's engine came alive. The sound thundered through the dealership. A living beast revived by its creator. The crowd erupted. The same people who had laughed moments ago now stared in awe. Phones filmed again, but this time for the miracle, not the mockery. Rebecca smiled through tears. Grandpa? She whispered. How did you know it was yours? Walter's eyes softened. Because when you build something with love and precision, you recognize it, even after the world tries to destroy it. The story didn't end there. The video went viral, reaching millions. The humiliation turned into history. Blackwell's fraudulent empire collapsed as the FBI opened an investigation using Walter's evidence. He lost everything: his company, wealth, and pride, all undone by his own arrogance. Months later, Ferrari publicly honored Walter with the Legacy of Excellence Award. They launched the Walter Johnson Scholarship, funding engineering studies for young talents from underprivileged backgrounds. Walter, now a quiet legend, transformed his small garage into a learning workshop. Teens came from nearby towns to learn not just mechanics, but humility and honor. One afternoon, a familiar face appeared. Ryan, the salesman who had mocked him. Sir, he said softly, I came to apologize. Walter wiped his hands on a rag and smiled. Everyone makes mistakes, but few have the courage to admit them. If you're here to learn, grab a wrench. And so, in that humble garage, arrogance gave way to understanding. A year later, as Walter stood before a group of students, he said, The strongest engines aren't built from steel. They're built from patience, respect, and purpose. Somewhere, miles away in a prison cell, Jonathan Blackwell watched a news segment about Walter's scholarship. For the first time in years, he cried. Not from loss, but from recognition of what he'd destroyed inside himself. Walter wrote him back after receiving his letter of apology. Redemption isn't something you ask for, he wrote. It's something you build, piece by piece, the same way we build engines. Every morning, as the sun rose over the small workshop, the once-forgotten old man taught his students that dignity, once tested, becomes unbreakable. Because Walter Johnson didn't just fix a Ferrari that day. He rebuilt the very meaning of respect. Hey friends, this is Shadow Voice. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Your time truly means a lot. This channel is new, and every view, like, and comment makes a huge difference.